So before we start creating, let's talk about alcohol inks. So alcohol inks are an alcohol with color in them. They come in all sorts of different colors. The palette is endless, basically. You can mix colors together too to make custom ones. The ones that I'm using are from Ranger, but there's a bunch of other companies that make them as well. To blend those alcohol inks, I'll be using isopropyl alcohol for some techniques, alcohol blending solution for others, and when I'm using the blending solution, I'll let you know when it's that. Most of the time it'll just be the isopropyl. Now, I've worked with alcohol inks for probably about 15 years now, and in the last, I want to say about 6 months, I've heard people say that you need to use a ventilator when using them. Now, I never have, and I've never noticed an issue, but I don't work with alcohol inks all the time. I will do them periodically. I make sure that I have lots of ventilation in the room that I'm in. I share a room with our house furnace, so I'm very aware of alcohol and fumes and being careful and stuff like that. And I also tend to rotate different crafts, so I'll do alcohol inks for a while and then I'll go do something else for several months and then come back to them. If you have issues with smells and stuff like that, make sure that you've got good ventilation. And if you're more comfortable using a ventilator, absolutely do your own research and see what you're comfortable with and follow that. Now, they will also stain, so you'll notice I'm working on a black surface here. I clean up between different cards and stuff like that, but if my black surface happens to stain, you're not going to see it. Just be prepared that if you're using a white surface to work on, you're going to have some staining with the alcohol ink, so you'll want to protect your surface. Same with your fingers. They will stain your hands. Now, personally, we don't have a dishwasher, so I'm hand washing dishes several times a day, so usually the staining doesn't last very long. But if you happen to not want to get staining on your fingers, use a pair of gloves. So to move the inks around, I have it's actually a hair tool. I've got the curling brush taken off of here. There's 2 speeds on here, and it's a low temp. So you do want something that doesn't have a lot of heat to it, but you can control the air. I want low speed, low airflow, and I want it low temp. For someone starting out, there's something like this as well. This is a great way to start out rather than investing in a whole lot of stuff. I think these are around $15, $20 or whatnot. But they're a great way to move the air around or move the alcohol ink around and have control, but not invest a lot when you're learning and starting out. So for surfaces, you're going to be using several different surfaces in this class. Most of the time I'll be using Yupo. Yupo is a synthetic paper. It's a plastic paper, but it does not like heat, which is another reason to use something that is very low temperature so that you're not going to melt it and warp it. I'm also going to be using alcohol ink cardstock. Now this is a glossy coated cardstock. It's actually got it's a clay coating on it to give it the glossy appearance, but it's perfect for alcohol inks. They just look beautiful on it. Some people have had success using photo paper. If you have photo paper at home, try it, experiment with it. Personally, I never liked the look of alcohol inks on photo paper. It just didn't have the same look as alcohol ink cardstock, in my opinion, but I know there's other people that use photo paper and are quite happy with it. So like I said, if you have it, play around with it and try it. You may happen to have a type of photo paper that works perfectly. Different ones will react differently as well. It depends on what they have coating their paper. We're also going to use some glitter alcohol ink cardstock. So this is meant for alcohol inks. It looks like it's glitter, so it looks like it has some texture, but it's totally smooth. And then we're also going to use some black alcohol ink cardstock. Now this paper is really, really cool. It's got a nice suede finish, so I use it for things other than alcohol inks, but you have to use it in a certain way because alcohol inks are transparent. You can't just use regular ones on the black cardstock and expect them to show up. So we'll cover that when we get to that point. And then the last thing, I didn't grab the package, I'm also using some clear acetate. Now the one that I'm using is heat resistant simply because I'm going to do some embossing on top of it. If you want to do the technique but not emboss an image on top of it, you can use regular acetate. That will absolutely work. But there we go. Those are the basics. Now let's make some cards.